Do not attempt to adjust your podcast player. We are controlling the transmission. We are here to be your guide, helping you to explore local events, the art scene, music, theater, sports, and possibly a conspiracy or two. All here on the GCRX Radio and Podcast Network.
Good evening, Granite City and all of you other places listening tonight. Welcome to In the Metro. I am Brian with a Y, your favorite guy, and I just got to ask you people, how did you enjoy my birthday? Because today's my birthday, y'all.
Happy birthday.
And thank you so much, Bill. Man, today is my birthday, and most people have asked me, they've sent me, greetings and wishes and all that other stuff. They've been like, so what'd you do for your birthday? And I'll be honest with you, nothing super interesting, but very exciting nonetheless, very mundane. I spent the bulk of the day finishing up my mortgage loan originators class, which gets me, now that that's done, to the next step, which is get the, sit for the state exam, and then I get my mortgage loan originators license, and that much closer to being full-fledged Brian with a Y, your financial guy. Like, that's really what it is. And I'm really excited about that. I don't know. I haven't had a sip of this coffee yet. And I don't know if you can feel the excitement just radiating off of me. But yeah, tonight we're going to have a really awesome show. I have with me this evening, as always, Engineer Bill.
Hola.
How are you? How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Packed full of moving stuff.
Yeah. How's Tech Doc going?
It's almost there.
Almost there. That's what's up.
You don't realize how much stuff you have until you start moving it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my
I
gosh.
realized I didn't stir that coffee at all. When I get to the bottom, it's just going to be powder.
Yummy.
Yeah.
Powder. What'd you put in it?
So when I was at our church, I used to experiment with
The chocolate.
the chocolate or the vanilla for the.
Oh, and you didn't stir it?
I didn't stir it, so it's all at the
Oof.
bottom. It's like a vanilla bean kind of latte.
At least you don't have a straw in there. That would,
You could use the straw to stir it.
I could. That, my fine folks, that would be Johnathan Roberts. How are you, Jonathan?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Jonathan and I, we go way back to like earlier this year. I met him as we were doing outreach for our church, Freedom Point, and him and his family, awesome family. They're like, they just, when you meet people and you just know they know who they are. Like, that's who they are. Nicholas, he's my twin. He's 16 years old. And I remember Kenya was like, didn't I tell you don't talk to anybody? Like he wore his Debbie. Debbie is the ostrich.
Deborah.
Yeah, it's
is
Deborah,
the
not
ostrich,
Debbie.
yeah.
Deborah's the ostrich. But yeah, like he wore Deborah to church one day, and I was like, "There's an ostrich," and he goes, "What ostrich?" I was like, anyway,
Did he have his leprechaun hat?
he did have his leprechaun hat on, yeah. But this dude knows exactly who he is. Seth, awesome kid. Lily, awesome. Kenya, awesome. So, like, I'm really excited to have you guys on the show. I'm really excited to have you on the show tonight because we're going to talk some science stuff. I hope everybody had a really awesome and safe Halloween. Couple things that I kind of want to just glaze over, like the Yankees making it to the World Series. That's literally all I have to say about that. Election day ends tomorrow. You see my little sticker here. Wait, it's over here. I don't know. My sticker is somewhere. I voted. That was like last week. So that's cool. That's always good and fun. Let me see. What else is happening in the metro area? Bill, do you know anything that's going on?
Honestly, I have no idea.
I kind of feel like everything's in a holding pattern until Thanksgiving. And then it's
Probably
like
a ton of stuff towards
glaze
the end of
over
the month.
Thanksgiving and go straight into Christmas if you don't just go into Christmas already. Like there are people who have their trees up already.
Yeah,
There are people that have their trees up already.
Like it's a Halloween tree. That's
Yeah.
a Christmas tree that you decorated with Halloween decorations. That's what that is.
No,
I mean,
we,
if you
we
just-
have our straight up Christmas tree up.
Yes.
See,
Yes.
you didn't ask me about my weekend.
How was your weekend?
I put up a Christmas tree this weekend, Brian.
Oh, jeez.
Yes. Okay. And how long did that take?
You know, most of Sunday afternoon. I
Most
think,
of
but,
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did all
Yeah.
the lights work?
Well, none of the lights that are installed on the tree work.
Oh,
So
no.
the other two wraps that are around there have different non-matching lights. Those all work.
That's what I hate about pre-lit trees. Like my wife, like she's really loves Christmas and she loves these trees. Like, let's just get a pre-lit tree. And I'm like, I finally broke down and I'm like, okay, pre-lit tree. And it was like maybe 2 years later, the pre-lit part of it didn't work anymore. And I'm like, now we have to go buy string lights because I'm not spending another, what are they, like $400 something now for a freaking tree?
For what?
For a pre-lit Christmas tree.
For what?
Shut up.
No, you don't understand. Like, okay, you don't understand. So I'm that guy who used to work at Home Depot, and then I would just like, hey, I need a tree. And they'd be like, all right, I mean, it's Black Friday. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? These trees are flying off the shelves, and it just so happens that one happens to be a display. So can I have that one? Can't you get another one? I could, but it doesn't fit in my apartment. And so I would con them into getting this Christmas tree for like $80. It was a $400 tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I told you, man. I'm
You know,
a hustler, baby.
I'm kind of that guy too, because I worked at the orange store and
Uh-huh.
I know how much, what they do and how much they can mark down, especially display items. The only thing that aggravated the crap out of me is their policy for like certain floor display models and stuff like that have to be destroyed. I guess because of a agreement with the manufacturer or something like that. Like Lowe's will, stick a sticker on them and mark them down to like $5, but Home Depot's like, nope, it's got to go in the compactor, get destroyed. When it could go to like Habitat for Humanity,
but I could destroy it at my house.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
let me have it.
I do know of
promise
instances
I'll
where
destroy
that
it.
happened, where it's like, okay, well, they're coming in, they're resetting all the display doors in millwork. They all have to be destroyed, and they all got sat behind the store. And what happened to them after that, nobody knows.
no say.
Nobody knows.
I don't know. You no say.
Right. Silly. Silly.
Yes. If anyone's wondering what this sticker right here says, it says the answer is always yes. I think I failed to recognize what I might not have talked about this. This was like 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago. I went to a concert while I was doing Lyft. I picked up a young lady. Her name is Alex Leahy, and she's an Australian artist. And she was in town to do a concert. So she was passing through. I took her and her band to the Cards game, and she said, hey, if you want to come to the show, like, let me know. I'll be in Kansas City this weekend. I'm going to be back in St. Louis at the pageant. And I was like, okay. Missed her in Kansas City because I was there on business. And then I came back and I was at the pageant. And I was like, can I still get a couple tickets? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I ended up going to the show, and she shouted me out from the stage, which was insane, and then led a chant of people, 1,600 people chanting Brian, Brian, Brian. And then she dedicated the very next song to me.
Nice.
The song was called Congratulations. It's about I thought about it after the fact. She was like, this one's for you, Brian. And it's pretty much about, a couple breaks up and, you've moved on, you're getting married. That's great. I'm so happy for you. There's something in my eye. And I was like, wait a second.
I mean, it's better than like dedicating a song like You're a Douchebag or something.
That's true. But I can only
Still would
imagine.
have been hilarious.
I would have laughed.
Decided to do a cover of You're So Vain.
Like, wow, okay, wow. We're going there.
But it was really cool, though. It was really cool because I saw her afterwards. I ended up posting the picture on Instagram, and I don't really Instagram anything, but I'll probably end up posting this show on Instagram and like tag her in it just so that she knows you still got a fan out here in the US. I was gonna say in the NY. We're definitely not in New York. We're nowhere near New York.
Thank God.
I can't help it that your pizza sucks. Okay, like I really can't.
Listen, at least I don't have to deal with all the crime and the stupid squirrel killing people.
Rats? The squirrel killing rats?
No.
Because that's what they do.
Well,
they kill squirrels. They're fast enough.
no,
They're
they,
nimble.
They eat everything.
Literally, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll pass on the giant population of your beloved town. Thank you.
It's only 9.2 million people.
Yeah, no, there's no way that should not be a thing.
And literally the size of St. Louis.
Yeah. Nope.
Let's just cram everybody into St. Louis.
Like and then wonder why they're all pissed off.
Look, when I come back from New York, and this happens, the first time I drove back from New York, Jonathan, I was so angry, I would roll down my window and scream at people. Like I drove to New York. This was 3 years ago. I drove to New York. I was there, like my car got impounded. It was a whole thing. I was looking through my time hop and they were like, yeah, this is what happened. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. All right, cool. Just get your plates. All right. Register your car. That's all I got to say. Make your car legal. And then a state trooper can't just like be on his high horse. And believe me, it had to have been a high horse because this dude was like 4 feet tall. Okay. If I see him, it's a misunderstanding on sight. Just saying. Anyway, so he impounds my car. I've been driving for 17 hours. He says, you've been swerving for the last like mile. I'm like, no, I haven't. I reached for a bagel and my car like dipped a little bit.
So you were swerving,
but not for a whole mile. His lying ass. Anyway, so fast forward, it took me like a week and $3,500 to get my car back. Yeah,
that's a lot more expensive than registration.
Yeah, part of it was I had to register my car to get New York State car insurance. I had to renew my New York State driver's license. Let's start there. I had to renew my license.
Gosh, I can only imagine the DMVs there. It's got to be hell.
Yo, they don't talk to each other.
Oof.
And part of their job is to let you know how much their job sucks.
I mean, I think that's a standard DMV practice anywhere you go.
No. I mean, like, hey, Jonathan, you see this guy? Yeah. He has no documentation. He wants to ask me questions. What can I do for you, pal? Like, it's like, what kind of disrespectful? Yo, if there wasn't plate glass between us, there'd be plate glass between us. I'm just saying.
You should have just been like, hey, your mother knows who I am. Call her up. I bet she does.
Oh yeah. I just left the house. Anyway,
hey, you got that glass to protect you, right?
It's terrible.
It is, but funny.
It's so funny though. But yeah, ultimately it's just like, so I went to the first DMV and I told them the whole story, and I hated the fact that I told them the whole story because they wanted more documentation than just like the documentation that I needed.
No.
So I went back to another DMV the next day with my passport and was like, hey, last night I partied a little too hard. I have no idea where my driver's license is, but it's up for renewal. Here's the card. I need to renew my driver's license. I have my passport. And they were like, cool, that's the 6 points. Great. Wonderful. So they issued me the driver's license. Great. Hey, how do I, it's 3 years. I'm hoping the statute of limitations is over on this. So I then went through the process. I got the driver's license. I had to get New York State car insurance, which was like $1,000 a month.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Because in New York, when you get into an accident, people drive to the attorney first and then the hospital. Everyone's looking to sue everybody else.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, we're back to the fact that they're all pissed off.
Everybody's pissed. Yeah. So yeah. I also found out at that point, the reason that it was so high is 2 years before, 2 years before, I had a car accident. And even though it wasn't my fault, the other lady lawyered up and my insurance company didn't want to fight it in court. So they just paid the claim.
That's more and more common.
And I was like, so for 5 years, which just expired, by the way, I've got aggravated car insurance. This is ridiculous. So yeah, I wasn't too thrilled about that, but got the license, got the car insurance, got the plates. And then I had to travel back to Jersey. It took me 10 hours to get there. I had to travel back. I left home at 8:00 in the morning. I didn't get to the impound lot until 6 p.m. on public transportation. It was ridiculous. And then after all of that, they allowed me to drive my car off the lot. And I had to show them all the proof of everything and then grease the palms of the guy because he left at 5. He wasn't leaving at 5.
So it sounds like the sum total of this story is like you were trying to get Ohtani's autograph after beating the Yankees because you're
I'm gonna jump over. Yo, who is this guy? Who is this guy? I'm not trying to get Ohtani's autograph. Yo,
Hey.
listen. Hey. Hold up. Nah, man, that's not funny.
I like him.
Oh,
I was gonna
this
say
is how New York treated you.
listen, but it's still my hometown.
It's how they treated the Dodgers, and the Dodgers went away. And
well, the Dodgers, I could claim the Dodgers, but I've been to Ebbets Field. Whatever. It's still baseball. I mean, what's going on with baseball out here anyway? I'm waiting. All I hear is crickets. Oh.
You don't have your 9 million people to back you up right
That's
now.
true. I don't need my 9 million people.
You'll get murdered and be part of a cornerstone of a building out here, buddy.
Just tuck me into the drywall.
Don't play. They won't find you till remodel, and they'll be like, "Oh, it's probably a fake party skeleton. Just throw it away."
I've seen The Wire. I'm familiar with how that works, man.
I mean, we got plenty of those empties.
Oh, all right. So, what time are we looking at? It's 7:30. Let's. The reason you're here, okay? We had a really awesome conversation. Not this Sunday that just passed. I didn't make it. Oh, by the way, my transmission exploded on my car. So like I'm currently not driving for a while. So there's that. Anyway, so we were talking about what you do, and it fascinated me so much. And I wanted you on this show because you're one of my favorite people, period. I appreciate the fact that like some of the technical from whether it's a biochemical or a cellular level thing, and I'm not super versed in it, but I've got enough that I can maintain a conversation with you. I want to talk with you, Johnathan, about what you do, because there's some really cool research that you're working on. So, does he need to say the name of the company? He doesn't need to say the name of the company.
No.
You can say it if you want. I don't really care. But like, yeah, let's talk about what you do. Okay, let me set this up. You work on rare diseases, and what exactly do you do with those rare diseases? The floor is yours.
Okay, so the rare diseases that we're working on, they're called lysosomal storage diseases.
Okay,
and it's a whole class of like 50 different diseases, but the one that I work on the most is called Pompe disease. And so my company, I'll say the name, I don't have a problem. It's M6P Therapeutics is the name of it. We used to be in like Cortex, and they priced us out, and we moved out to Maryland Heights.
Oh, you guys moved.
Yes, we did.
That explains why we haven't had lunch near the Cortex recently.
Yeah. So but basically these diseases, they are caused by an enzyme that's missing from your cells, and it's caused by a genetic difference. It's not a defect.
Is it like a mutation?
So a mutation okay. That causes, and most of these are like follow a whole familial line for a long time. They're not, some of them are spontaneous mutations where nobody's ever been sick in the past, and these are the first ones. But basically you're missing an enzyme, or one of the enzymes is damaged that is in your lysosomes. And your lysosomes are basically like, they're kind of like the public works of the cell. They do like waste reclamation, and they do some recycling stuff, and they do some people that are real big on lysosomes are like, no, the lysosome's like the brain of the whole cell. But it's more than just trash, but it is the trash too. So they collect the trash from your cell, and they have to get rid of it. And they use acid and enzymes to get rid of things that your cells don't need anymore, to reuse amino acids and stuff like that. And so if you're missing one of these enzymes, the waste builds up in your lysosomes, and it causes all kinds of problems. And so the Pompe disease is glycogen.
Oh.
And so glycogen, your liver makes it so that you have if a bear shows up, you can take off and sprint.
right.
If you're a pro athlete, you eat a whole bunch of pasta before a game so that you get enough glycogen built up to be able to do all those quick sprints on those final downs in the game or whatever.
Right.
But all your cells have glycogen, and there are times that they don't need it. They need to recover those resources for something else. So the glycogen goes to the lysosomes. And if you're missing the enzyme that breaks it down in the lysosome, then it just stores it in your cells, and it keeps building up in your cells and keeps building up in your cells until it causes, in that case, it causes like your muscles to start getting hard and stiff. And eventually, like the bad cases, the childhood cases, it gets to the point where their diaphragm isn't strong enough to move their lungs anymore.
Oh,
their heart isn't strong enough to pump their blood anymore. And so
this is beyond like a cramp. Like if you're
right,
if you don't have enough potassium, like your muscle seize or something, this is significantly bigger than that.
Right. So there's like infantile onset.
Mm-hmm.
They don't live to like maybe months.
Oh.
And I don't know, like I don't know if it's treated at all at this point for the infantile onset. There's like childhood onset. In the days before there was any treatment, they would make it to 10, 12, something like that.
Oh my God.
And so, but there is treatment now. There are enzyme replacement therapies, which is what I work on, is the enzyme replacement therapies. And so, basically, if you can make so they're missing an enzyme. If you can make an enzyme in a bioreactor, like a big brew house, like you make an enzyme in a big vat and you give that to them. And if you can get it into their cells rather than just circulating in their blood, if you can get it into their cells, then it will start doing the job that their missing enzyme is supposed to do and start breaking down the glycogen or whatever the storage material is for whatever disease that they have. And so our company's technology is based on the idea of trying to get it into the cells specifically. And so I had mentioned to you before, there's a movie about this.
Yeah.
And nobody I've ever talked to before has seen the movie. And the movie stars Brendan Fraser and Harrison Ford. It's called Extraordinary Measures.
Uh-huh.
And it's a pretty good movie.
A pretty good movie. Look. I'm gonna tell you this. When I saw the movie, I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, the premise of the movie is pretty interesting. And I'll kind of give you a synopsis of it. This man, played by Brendan Fraser, his daughter has a very rare disease, and like a handful of people in the world have this thing. No one knew how to treat it. And he's like, I don't accept the fact that my daughter is going to die. Like, that's just not going to, right?
Right.
So he goes out and he starts this pharmaceutical company that starts doing research on this. And his daughter is now...
she's in her 20s. She, I think, has 2 different graduate degrees now. And like...
And she wasn't supposed to live past...
Probably 15 or something would be like the latest that... So she might be one of the oldest people that has the childhood version of Pompe disease. Like, it's... So, I mean...
And she's still alive.
Yeah.
So like,
it's a beautiful story. I mean, they did everything they could do. And, you know, basically, so John Crowley was Brendan Fraser's character. And he got in touch with and started working with a researcher at the University of Oklahoma who, his name was Bill Canfield. And yeah, they spun off his like basic academic research into these various lysosomal like targeting systems. And they spun that off into a company. And, you know, I think they were, you know, paying the bills on his personal credit card and stuff. He was a physician.
Right.
And then they got bought out by Genzyme, which is a multinational company. I don't know. His cut of Canfield's cut of the buyout was probably like $150 million or something. I mean, and so then they had the power of this big company behind them.
Right.
And the company like had a couple of different Pampa programs going at the same time, and they like pitted them against each other. They didn't share their research and stuff. It was kind of
foster kind of what?
Yeah,
like, just to get we're gonna solve it first. No, we're gonna solve it first. Why not just have them work together? That's so corporate.
It was internal politics and stuff. But they got a product approved. It's called Lumazyme or Myozyme, depending in Europe or the US. And so they got that product approved. And basically, like I said, we're focused on the targeting. So that was like the first generation of the drug.
Right.
And so that one, the idea was pretty much, we're going to put enough of the drug into you that some of it will hopefully make it into the cells somehow. And some of the drug does, like 1% makes it out of your blood into the tissue. And then some percentage of what makes it into the tissue actually gets into the cells.
Wow.
And it's enough that it keeps people alive, and that's like, that was huge for something that was untreatable essentially. And
high childhood mortality rate.
Yeah. And there's an adult version too. The adult version is not as severe. And the adult version, they are a whole lot better. They get a lot better. The childhood version, basically they're going downhill fast. It slows the descent that they're going downhill pretty much.
Okay.
And so, they got that in the clinic. That was the first Pompe drug that was approved. And his daughter, Crowley's daughter, and his son, I believe too. They were in the original clinical trial. And so what's cool about some of these diseases, they're so rare, and because they're childhood diseases and they're so severe, it is not considered ethical to do a double-blind study. So you don't give somebody a placebo.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, God, I couldn't imagine giving a child a placebo for something like that and then just watching them like they're gonna tank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it kind of supersedes the power of thought.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
so they don't have to do that. That's
right.
So
you're doing some like cutting edge, life-changing work, man.
Yeah. So with the enzyme replacement therapies, we are trying to get a new generation of drug that hopefully will reverse the pathology instead of slowing the degradation, that it'll actually start improving and have some recovery and come back from it. And so the idea is, this drug, out of everything that makes it into the tissue, it should essentially all make it into the cells. And so it's just going to be a much more thorough treatment. And so basically it was a professor at WashU, Dr. Kornfeld, because
not Dr. Canfield, right?
Not Dr. Canfield. Dr. Canfield was Dr. Kornfeld's protege.
Spit coffee all over my screen. I was like, oh my gosh, Kornfeld, right? Gotcha.
The first time I ever heard Kornfeld's name, I was like, wait, are you talking about Bill Canfield? And
like,
no, this is Stuart Kornfeld. Okay.
Oh, different person altogether. Gotcha. All right, bet.
Yeah, so his lab and one of his postdocs, Dr. Lin Liu, they developed a technology that basically you can target any kind of enzyme to get sent to the lysosome. And so, and it's based on a whole legacy of research that's been done since like the 80s on these different receptors. It's cation independent mannose 6-phosphate receptor. And
that was a whole lot of words, man. I missed that, but it's all good. Yeah.
Dr. Canfield used to purify the mannose 6-phosphate receptor from cow udders that he would go to the stockyards and buy the extra cow udders that they had, and because it's one of the few things they don't use for anything.
Right.
People get disgusted about that, but if you really just look at some of the ingredients in food, like your red dyes and your Twizzlers that you love so much, crushed up beetles.
Yeah. Dude, do you remember?
I'll take the cow udders over the beetles.
Listen, so cow udders are bovine and what do you call pig?
Porcine.
Porcine.
Mhm.
There you go. Thank you. I've always known that there's cow and bovine. Like those are the same thing with porcine. Gotcha. So bovine and porcine, those DNAs are pretty close to human DNA, which is why they use them in different surgeries. Like,
A lot of artificial meshes and stuff.
yes, I have a biologic mesh, and
So do I now.
Hey,
yeah, twinsies.
So I have a biologic mesh, and this was, I want to say, maybe 5 or 6 years ago that I had it installed. But I wanted a biologic mesh because I didn't want, like they said, the other mesh, you see it on the TV screens where they're like, oh yeah, like if you had the surgical mesh put in and it's, there's a lawsuit. And I was like, I don't want a lawsuit. I want a good quality of life. And I don't want to be bothered with something poking me internally or coming out of me because
you missed the opportunity. You could have used that as a savings account. Like, listen, 20 years from now, I'm going to get a big check.
Yo,
of course, with inflation, it probably would have been,
okay. So here's $40,000. Yeah. 40,000 in 20 years
That's
from now.
my monthly rent.
Yeah. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, oh, hey, yeah, thanks guys.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Oh, I did. I wrote a rent check. That's what I did. But yeah, because they're so close. And I remember the whole thing that, like you were talking about crushed beetles. I remember a few years ago when the cicadas came out, and they came out heavy. It was loud and they chirped, and it was one of those weird years. I think it's every 6 and 13 years.
Get used to that here though.
Yeah. But like this past summer, it's almost like the 6th and the 13th year happened at the same time. So it was like, oh my God.
Honestly, I really didn't think it was that bad.
No.
They made it sound like it was going to be like the cicada apocalypse. And I'm like, listen, I've seen them pretty thick over the years here, but like this last year, it was a little more than normal, but it wasn't horrible.
But
dude, even the Beatles were afraid to go to North County. So
so I'm by the botanical gardens, and it was like it was loud out there. Like I'd wake up to them, and I thought that was kind of obnoxious. But I remember they were using cicadas in ice cream, and they were using cicadas to like sprinkle on. Yeah, at one point there was a coffee company, a national coffee company, and because it was on the news. I remember they were like, yeah, so these guys, they've got like crushed beetles or cicadas like on it, like as a crumble. And it's like, ugh.
As much as like that doesn't sound appetizing to me,
protein.
I do think it's funny. Like we're perfectly okay with eating cow, pig, chicken, turkey, deer, whatever. But
German chili is delicious.
You crush up one bug and people are like, oh my God. Like you don't understand most of these insects that we're afraid of that we're like, oh, that's so disgusting. They're cleaner than you are. like roaches. Everybody's like, oh, roaches. No, the waste that roaches leave behind and the destruction roaches leave behind is disgusting. Yes. They do make a mess. But roaches themselves are cleaner than you are. In fact, if you touch them, they clean themselves.
You see them
like that. Yeah. Like roaches are clean. And like, and that's there's an entire industry out there looking at this and everybody's been afraid of it and everything too. But look, alternative foods, alternative proteins through bugs because they replicate so fast. I mean, think how long it takes for a cow to come to maturity so it can be slaughtered, so it can feed a handful of people, and how quickly bugs come to maturity. Green. Like, dude, it people are disgusted by it, but like it's a viable thing. And there are other cultures that are like, yeah, so we eat that for breakfast.
Yeah.
People eat shrimp.
Right.
Wait, is shrimp bad?
I mean, it's not much different from a bug, is it?
No.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes.
So lobsters I know are like sea roaches.
Right.
Pretty much.
Shrimp, lobsters, all those kind of things.
Oh, that's so
They've
gross.
got exoskeletons. They're just like big giant bugs.
And what's really funny about that is that at one point in time, people are like, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. And now it's a delicacy.
Oh, like it's expensive too.
Right. Yeah. Like
expensive.
That's the stuff that you'd pull out and you'd be like, throw that away. Like, ew, I touched it. Now It's at Red Lobster for $49.99.
They used to feed lobster to prisoners.
Yes.
And prisoners like sued for cruel and unusual punishment
Right.
because they were getting nothing but lobster to eat.
Like, this is crap. It's disgusting.
Is so sad. It's like, look at all this sand. I don't want to build my house out here. It's beachfront property. What?
Yeah, you know, if you think about that, that's really stupid too. Like these ocean front properties, like, don't get me wrong, the view is gorgeous, and I'm sure the sound is soothing and everything, but it's the dumbest place to live. And no offense to anybody that lives there, but like,
I'm offended.
Hurricanes happen. Water happens, especially when you put your house right next to it.
And what's fascinating to me is Barbados. Mike Shao, it exists. Okay.
Right now he's saying prove it.
Yeah, whatever. It is still a growing island because it sits on two plates that are slowly moving together. So the island is still expanding,
right? Where
other places are like, oh no, this is terrible. It's like, yeah. So the beaches are actually getting bigger in Barbados.
Like at a rate that
no
people can notice, or
it's like 2 millimeters a year. So like you won't notice it, but
so if a glacier melts and they lose 6 feet.
Oh yeah, we're screwed. So screwed.
There'll be some great property ready for usage in 2368.
It'll be like, this is it. This is the island, and everything else is ocean. Like that's just what it's gonna be. It's awful. It's terrible.
Yeah, I never understood those types of things, like people wanting to live in areas that have just reoccurring history of really bad stuff happening. Like, again, okay, so if you find some oceanfront property that's an area where there's never historically been a hurricane landing or any kind of craziness like that,
I say give it time.
Okay, that's cool. Move there. But if you're like, hey, I've got this property right here in the Gulf of Mexico that's been hit by a hurricane, 10 times in the last 100 years.
Zone. Like, you have to have flood insurance.
Yeah, but nobody wants to touch you. Nobody wants to give you flood insurance.
There are some amazing houses.
That's like Shoto Island here. You can't go build anything out there because they're like, no, you're dumb. No, it's not happening. We're not going to insure you. So if something happens, you're on your own, buddy. Nope.
I mean, at least people that are building a beachside mansion, at least they're making that decision. Like,
yeah, I guess
there are people that. So okay, I've got my OU shirt on today. I'm from Oklahoma. My sister lived in a house in Moore, Oklahoma. That was
in Moore, Oklahoma.
I know somebody that lives.
Wait a second. Wait a second. As in, there's Oklahoma, and then there's Moore, Oklahoma. Like,
oh my gosh,
it's more Oklahoma than the other part of Oklahoma's.
No, it's just more worser than the rest of it.
I love it.
The people who live there are all morons, but
more morons.
More morons.
So that was where the F6 tornado hit, that when they changed the scale to the EF scale so that they got rid of the 6 category, was Moore, Oklahoma. And her house was built on like the slab of a house that had been destroyed in that tornado. And it was like, just, the place she had to live, and then whenever it got destroyed by another, I think it was an F4 that went through that year.
Good God.
Yeah, my wife's aunt moved out there, and the first thing she tells us is she's like, oh, yeah, and we're building one of those built-in storm shelters in the house. I'm like, why are you choosing to go here? Like here's the thing, and like, tell me if I'm wrong, but what is there in Oklahoma that you're like, my God, I've got to move there? that outranks the possibility of getting blown away by a freaking tornado.
The Sooners.
No.
Hey, I mean, Sooner basketball maybe is going to have a chance now, but I've given up on football. Okay, it's.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so Oklahoma. Like, I feel okay. Y'all have a basketball team, the Thunder,
right? Before
that, are there any other sports teams out there?
No, that's the only major league pro sports team we have. I mean, college ball obviously is huge out there. I mean, the softball team had a 3-peat championship now.
Softball team?
Yeah, the OU women's softball. they are amazing. Their coach is the winningest coach in probably in Oklahoma history entirely, but maybe not like of any sport. Like,
is it because the rest of them just get sucked away by a tornado, or
whoops, we lost another one.
You know,
no.
and of course we've got what, 7 football national championships, and of course the most recent one was in 2000, so that's kind of, you know,
that was like a quarter century
but yeah,
ago.
so we're super into college sports,
right?
And then pro sports, you know, it's 3 hours from OKC is 3 hours from Dallas, so there's a lot of Dallas fans, a lot of Rangers fans. So
my next question, based on logic, is like, so my wife's aunt says, you know, we're having this big concrete reinforced anchored storm shelter thing, and it's going to be right in the middle of the house, and we get into it, and there's no way it can get to us. Okay, that's cool. So why don't you build the whole house like that?
It's like, oh, the only thing that survived was the black box. Why don't you just make the whole plane out of the black box?
Right. So you can be the only person in the neighborhood to be like, oh, well, you know, I got to go get groceries now, and you know, it's all over. It's fine. Like, I don't understand. Like, you hear of these the insurance companies saying, hey, you know, we're not going to cover you anymore because you're in this flood zone thing. You can't have flood insurance. Or if you do, it's going to be some astronomical amount of money a month or year or whatever. Why is there any insurance company in Oklahoma saying, yeah, we got you?
Look, man, because
why? Oil. That's it. that's literally it, right? Okay.
Oil money is why people live there.
Oh, wow.
Oil is what supports the entire economy.
Yeah, you know what though? Okay, so pump the oil out, but don't live there. Like, listen,
who wants to commute 3 hours?
That's what they do in South Dakota.
I just got it. You go build your stormproof shelters for your oil pumping rigs, and you live somewhere else. Done. That's it. You know, we'll turn it into a giant wildlife preserve, and we'll have your little owned sections for the oil thing, and we'll make them those big tornado shelter things, and then nobody else dies.
But look, I mean, like, okay, so Nebraska, I kind of feel like Nebraska and Kansas has more cows than people. Right? Which is where you get the cow udders from, right? So, like, just loop.
Is that
right
the
back.
primary supply of cow udders?
I don't know.
Nebraska and Kansas?
Nebraska and Kansas, a lot of cornfields. Like, I've been as far west as Independence, but I haven't really ventured into Kansas City because apparently
it's like you were right there, bro.
I know, but I was there on business, and
you can literally like
urinate on a Thursday.
You can urinate from Independence and hit Kansas.
Yeah, I'm sure I could, and
you might get arrested, but you could still do it.
I would definitely get arrested. Kansas City, like the Kansas City Royals, they're like their field, their stadium it's slated in Independence, and I'm like, but I don't remember seeing. But as I said, I showed up there Friday. I was there Friday, Saturday, drove back Saturday. Like,
as you're driving around in that area, because I went out there back in 2007 for training. You are in Missouri and Kansas in and out so much, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a river that goes through there like here? Or I don't even...
There's separations, but it's just like you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there. And nobody acts like it's anything different. Like, it's...
You know what would really screw that up?
What?
Time zones. Like, if you put a time zone, like, could you imagine?
That would...
Because, like, oh, hey, dude, why are you calling me so early? It's 6 a.m. Oh, my bad. Like,
no, that would be ridiculous.
That would throw me for a loop.
Yeah, that would probably no, time zones are dumb anyway.
And they're completely illogical because the way time zones are supposed to work, it's every 15 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we should have more hours in the day, I suppose.
I don't know. Daylight savings time, I'm kind of on the fence. This isn't like a debate where we're talking about the Electoral College, where people who believe that doesn't or shouldn't exist are just stupid and don't know what Electoral College is for. But daylight savings time is silly.
I'm gonna leave now.
That's fine.
I didn't know this was gonna be politics.
Matt Fleming says hello, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's silly. I get it that we were trying to go for the whole more light in the day thing, but that's not a thing for us anymore. So.
No, now that we have light, literally,
yeah.
any
Thank you,
time
Edison.
of day.
Jeez, we used to be able to go to bed.
Yeah,
Edison screwed it up for all of us.
Yeah,
freaking light bulb. He stole that from Tesla anyway. So
did he?
I'm sure he did everything else.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who likes daylight savings time.
It is the dumbest thing.
Like, so why why is this something that we can't change? Like, this is the one
They've
thing
talked about it.
Every political party, every race, every religion, everybody can agree that it sucks.
We need that to be with both of the candidates to be like, day one, if I'm elected, we're
going back to standard time all year round,
everywhere,
all year round. It's 2:00. It's 2:00. Whether it's January, February, or July, it's 2:00.
Just deal with it being dark. I think one of the things is, like, I've heard people saying, oh, well, like the kids would have to get up and go to school in the dark and it would make it more dangerous. And
dangerous.
Like, they walk into a bus stop, like, they're out walking anyway. Have you not been out? And so, like, they don't care what time
they are the danger. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Get out of here.
They ain't scared.
Oh my gosh.
I think this comes back to farmers again, because
totally
they did it for farmers originally, and
right.
And the kids that have to walk 2 miles to a bus stop, that's all the farm kids that are out in the.
And now all the farmers are out in air conditioned combines. So what does it matter? It's not like you're trying to get out of the sun before it's high noon and burning your skull. You're sitting in a combine with the combine that's worth more than my house, car, and everything put together.
Yeah, right.
Like,
my goodness.
If I sold your combine, I could buy a couple Mercedes. Like, literally, like your combine.
Lamborghinis have a surprising resale value.
There's a couple dudes that I watch because I get down the rabbit hole of YouTube and I watch a bunch of different stupid stuff. There's a few farms that I watch, and this guy's got this combine. And farm economics are interesting because they'll go out at the beginning of the season and buy a $2 million combine with all the attachments, and it's like just technologically amazing. And they'll have it paid off in a couple years because of the amount of money they bring in. But this combine, like, they go out and they map the fields with a thing, and they're literally sitting in it probably because it's against the law for them to not. Like, but this thing is like boop, autopilot, and they're chilling, having a beer, listening to the game, watching the game, whatever they're doing, just chilling out there. They got their phone charger and they're just riding along in the combine. Like, bro,
it's got autopilot.
It really does. And like the don't get me wrong, they got to coordinate stuff. Like they still have to dump off into the trucks that come up next to them and dump it all off. And they're over the radio doing that.
Which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, super freaking cool.
Oh, it is totally cool.
It's like, I just saw a video probably earlier today or yesterday, where one was like, there was a truck and it's just dumping it in, and seamlessly.
Oh yeah.
One truck pulled off, the other one pulled right up, and it just kept going.
Yeah, there's a screen inside that combine. I've watched that process. There's a screen inside the combine. The guy like turns the auger off, other truck moves in, and he hits the button and it starts filling it again.
All over again. Yeah.
Now, it's not to diminish farmers. Like, there's still a lot of other stuff that they have to do and a lot of things they've learned
where we're gonna get those cow udders from.
Exactly. You got to know how to store it properly and how to do all the different things that I have no idea. I would suck as a farmer. But yeah, it's come a long way from old Grandpa Joe out on his Ford tractor burning in the middle of the day in the sun, getting heat stroke just to plow the field or harvest the field or whatever. It's definitely not the way that it used to be. How did we get off on farming? I don't.
We were talking about Oklahoma and how there's like tornadoes and cows.
Well, the tornadoes out there do the harvesting for them. Does crop insurance cover that kind of damage? I'm curious.
I think so. I learned during my mortgage class that if there is a 1% chance that you're going to flood, like there's a consistent 1%, you have to have flood insurance.
Well, they have crop insurance because so imagine it like the process that I said earlier. They spend $2 million on a new combine and the attachments, and then their crop fails for some stupid reason, drought, natural disaster, whatever, you're literally screwed for several years.
Yeah.
And you still have to keep making those payments, or I'm sure they'll come repossess your combine.
Right.
I don't want to meet the guy that has to do that. But seriously, like crop insurance, you never think about it until you think about the amount of money invested on a farm, because there's one project that I'm watching where they spent several $1 million just to build a silo to store it because their old silo was falling apart. So they built a new silo. And yeah, that's a once in 20, 30 years thing that you got to do. But, once in 20, 30 years, you got to spend $20 million to build a silo, and
yeah,
then
that's like
all
what, $670,000 a year on average.
Mm-hmm. And, you have to maintain all the trucks, like the trucks that they're filling, these big semi trucks that they're filling are usually farm owned.
Yep.
And you have to maintain those and pay somebody to drive them. You got the combine, all the other field equipment that you use, all the buildings, everything has to be maintained, plus the feed, which is not cheap. Thank you, Monsanto. But like, it's a lot, dude. I could not imagine the astronomical. You can't just go out and be like, I'm going to start a farm. No.
and
I'm going to do it tomorrow.
I remember there was somebody who they got a tomato seed from like a Burger King tomato and decided they were just going to like start with that.
Mm-hmm.
And the genetics behind that tracked back to, it was either Monsanto or something like that.
Oh, they'll sue you.
Oh, no, you need to cease and desist. You cannot continue growing that tomato because that's our intellectual property.
Yeah, you didn't buy the seeds for that. And Monsanto has done that in the past where you've got neighboring farms and this farm uses this brand and this farm uses Monsanto, and the seed from the corn or whatever has gone over to the other field
over or something.
They found it and they seized the crop. Like, I don't care what you have in it. Like, that's ours, and you don't have any record of buying Monsanto seed, so you're illegally growing our product. Like, they're serious about it. Like,
yeah, and now Monsanto doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's Bayer, right?
Yeah, that doesn't make it any better.
Why not?
That doesn't make it any better at all.
Why not?
Because Roundup is still being produced. They didn't take the active ingredient out of that.
Man, let me tell you, it was April 20th, and I was asked to, at a box store that I was working at, sell, like, oh yeah, this is the sale of the day. It's Roundup. And I was like, oh, so you guys want me to sell cancer? Like, that's what I told them. And they were like, well, you're the most charismatic person here. So yeah. And I was like, oh my, and I sold a pallet and a half of that crap.
I was part of that lawsuit for the lymphoma, because that's what I had. We used concentrated Roundup to treat the facilities that I worked at, and I was part of that.
Ouch.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
Yeah, anaplastic large cell lymphoma in 2007. And I remember the oncologist, when they diagnosed me, there was another guy who was a farm worker that was in there for treatment with me in the whole facility. And he's like, usually we find it in people that deal with chemicals. And back then I wasn't really putting two and two together, because I don't think that they had identified that the active ingredient in Roundup and some other pest control, weed control chemicals was the cause. But I'm like, no, I mean, I've never worked on a farm or anything like that, but I did work at a packaging plant, and we did use that for maintenance, like every week, sprayed it. But then there was this teacher, and I forgot what state he was in, but his like lawsuit got fast tracked because he was dying. Like, it was bad. But they had sprayed the grounds with the same kind of stuff that we sprayed with all the time. And so, yeah, I was part of that.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember working at a location, and it was like, okay, well, you've got to tend to the weeds. And I'm like,
right.
Tend to the, what do you mean tend to the weeds? Like, yeah, so we're bringing Roundup by. And I was like, okay, so, glove up. And it's kind of fascinating to see how it works, because you spray the plant, you spray the root, and it's like, okay. And like, it seems fine. And the next day, it's not as crisp as it was before. But the day after, it's like wilting. And then the day after that, it's turning the color. And you're like, oh, so this thing is like really legitimately killing this plant. Like, yeah, absolutely.
And everything else around it.
It'll just annihilate everything.
Like we sprayed the entire perimeter of the building in the parking lot and the tank farms and all that stuff. Like, yeah, every week.
But it's super cool. Like the reason that obviously everybody wanted to use it is because it only kills grass. Like you can spray your tree and it will kill the grass all around your tree and not hurt your tree. And I mean, farmers used it for everything.
Oh yeah.
And then especially once they had the Roundup Ready crops that, you know, because corn and stuff is grass, and you can spray it on your corn and it only kills the grass in between. And it's one of those things that is just a no-brainer for everybody to use it. And
well, obviously
they used it everywhere they possibly could.
Well, and it's a long-term effect type thing too. It's kind of like asbestos. Like asbestos, if we were in a factory right now and you know, there's asbestos fibers flying around, we could probably work there for 10, 15, 20 years and be fine. And maybe we have a little diminished lung capacity, even more if you're a smoker, but it's not really going to rear its ugly head until the damage is already way past done.
Right.
And it's the same kind of thing with Roundup. Like, I'm sure it tastes bad, but you could probably ingest some of it and be just fine. Like, it's not going to really hurt you because you look at the chemical list on it. It's not that like imposing. It's not like it's acid.
Heavy water has a sweet taste to it.
Yeah, and you would know why. What?
I saw a video.
Yeah.
The guy was like it was literally just like an ounce of heavy water. And you could get away with that. But drinking that like
it's your daily cocktail.
This would kill you.
That one's super cool because
dude, I'm saying this is awesome.
Dude, so back to enzymes and how enzymes work. They have to be able to line up different bonds, and basically enzymes are like the factory machines of your cells. Basically, they do, if something needs to be cut or put together, that's what enzymes do. And so they've got to be able to line up chemical bonds. And so a big part of that is for water or alcohols that have an OH, and that proton on the OH bond it can get replaced by other protons from water, and water just trades its hydrogens back and forth between itself and alcohol and things like that. And so a proton has a molecular weight of 1, heavy water has a molecular weight of 2. And so it changes like how, when the protons are like moving around and they bounce around like on a spring, well, you've doubled the weight at the end of that spring, and it makes all the chemical bonds where they don't line up the same. And so the enzymes can't cut the bonds anymore, and they can't put things back together the way they're supposed to.
Is that why it's dangerous to drink heavy water?
That's why it's dangerous to drink heavy water. Is it?
But it tastes so sweet. I thought it was Kool-Aid.
So I had no idea that it was supposed to taste sweet. That's interesting.
Yeah, I saw a video and the dude was like, I tasted the heavy water.
Yeah, so does antifreeze.
Oh God. So this was a thing back in New York where Subway workers, they would leave pizza crust or bread soaked in antifreeze
for the rats.
Yeah. And the rats will sit there.
Kills their liver.
And it just destroys them. So you'd see like just a slew of dead rats. It's like, oh, this whole loaf of bread was just soaked in antifreeze. And well, this station's clear for now.
That's why, like, you know, if you're ever doing like your own oil change or radiator flush, if you let that out and you just let it drain, you know, obviously you wouldn't do that with oil because it kind of stays, but antifreeze will just wash away. You want to make sure it's washed down really good because the neighborhood cats and dogs would come by and nom, and then people's cats and dogs are dying. But yeah, I know several old guys, or knew several old guys. Most of them are probably dead by now, but they would, you know, reach down and find a leak spot on the ground with just, you know, touch it to their tongue. Oh yeah, that's antifreeze leaking. You're like, you know, but this is also the same generation of people where if you look at like the Popular Science magazine, there's I think it was in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, where they were like, hey, to dispose of oil, dig a hole in your backyard, at least this far deep, pour the oil in, cover it back up, it'll be fine.
Right.
Dude, I think it was in the 80s in Germany. You know, wine, some people want their wine dry, some people want it sweet. And people who want it sweet, you know, it's prized for its sweetness, and you've got to have the perfect grapes to be able to make it sweet, because they actually test for added sugar. And so you can't just claim that your wine is sweet by adding sugar in it. They actually would test for it. And so this winery got the great idea that they don't test for ethylene glycol.
Oh, God.
And it makes things sweeter. So they just started adding some antifreeze to their wine.
No. Problem solved.
And that's why I don't drink Fireball. No, seriously, I heard that Fireball, it failed. It was removed from shelves in Europe because the antifreeze content was too high. And I was like, well, okay then. They have a different standard of everything overseas. That's
they do
fine.
too, and that you bring up a good point, because RFK Jr., one of the crazies on TikTok, was like, they want to take away your Doritos and Mountain Dew. And what RFK Jr. said was, no, what we'd like to do is investigate why the UK has this list of ingredients in a bag of Doritos, which is fairly safe, and because we haven't banned those, now we know, unsafe things, ours are different over here. Well, we know why, because it's cheaper to produce using these ingredients over here. So that's what whatever company is going to do. But people should really look at ingredients.
And they're flammable.
And they're well, yeah. I won't say the story that I got told by a
they're flammable because they're made out of sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that solves that.
Yeah. But that also brings
doesn't make them any less safe.
No, that also brings me to, though, that like people will get all crazy about vaccines and stuff and be like, oh, there's mercury in that vaccine. But like, listen. First off, everything that I've ever seen in the food industry has a permissible level of contaminants in it. Okay. If you don't like permissible levels of contaminants, don't eat peanut butter, hot dogs, tuna fish. The list goes on, because
burgers.
Especially don't grow your own food, man.
No.
Oh yeah. No. Don't do that.
No.
There's a certain level of like rat that is allowed.
Yeah. Oh, well, because you can't escape from it.
Right.
You can't. You can't. If they said, hey, tuna absolutely cannot have a single cockroach in it, tuna industry's done. It's done. There can't be no roach legs. Better not find a roach leg. It's done. It's just impossible. Like, I don't care what people think about it. It's the truth. And don't look up what's permissible in peanut butter, because you'll never touch the stuff again. But like, people get on their high horse about that with their Google PhDs and are like, hey, I just looked at the list of ingredients in this vaccine and it's got mercury in it. Mercury's deadly. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't understand how these chemicals are proportioned and why there's mercury in the vaccine. Perhaps it causes, absorption rates to increase and different things like that. And, like, come on, x-rays are deadly. You have a maximum x-ray dose, maximum CT. Like, I learned about all this stuff throughout the cancer. Like, hey, your lifetime amount of x-rays is here,
and it's coming up, man.
And x-rays are stupid damaging, but like, we go and do them. Like, if little Timmy gets a broken bone, you're not going to be like, well, I heard there's an x-ray involved. We're not going to do that. No, you're going to go do it, but you're worried about Google PhDing a freaking vaccine. And I'm not talking about the COVID vaccine. I'm talking about just regular vaccines.
Yeah. MMR.
Yeah. Like the stuff that's, increased our population. Like, these things that people have developed and have been successful for years and caused, people not to have to lay in an iron lung their entire life.
Right. Or even like the stuff that Jonathan's working on.
Right.
Where like,
I'm sure there's some unpleasant chemical in something that your company makes that some Google PhD would be like, oh my God, that's the devil.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to go into it, but like I'm just thinking about it. You're out here literally saving lives. And there's that one jerkwad who's like, oh, but it's got this in it, and I heard that it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I've seen the most that freaks people out about biotech research. Number one, you've got people that worry about you're doing genetic stuff. And it's like they come off like Ian Malcolm, genetic power is the most powerful thing that humanity is. Or the other thing is animal studies. And like, you can't create drugs without animal studies. And it sucks. It sucks, but it's the reality.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Even if you did remove the animal studies and replace them with human studies and you killed people.
And now you're upset because people have died.
Yeah, well, that one didn't work, but we had to do this study because it's mandated that we do. It's a whole lot worse that a human died than, you know, a freaking lab rat or lab mouse or whatever it is you're testing on.
I mean, how else are we supposed to get Green Goblin?
Oh my gosh.
He had to go straight to human trials, and he used himself as a human trial. We saw it in 2002. Tobey Maguire, Willem Dafoe. There
was this whole movement on that, and like I get it. There were probably
I'm only half an idiot.
There were probably some companies out there that were doing some evil stuff with their testing with like monkeys and different things like that. But like, you have to test the effectiveness of it. Like, listen, the government doesn't build a brand new untested nuclear weapon and not set it off. Like, hey, we did a lot of that, and it was really bad, and
really bad
to the point that you can't buy steel anywhere in this country and probably abroad without traces of radiation in it. Like, the only place that you're going to get non-radiated steel is off the bottom of the ocean from a ship.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a whole. I was like, where's he going with this?
A ship that sank before the 40s.
Right.
That's the only place that you're going to, and honestly, there's a whole industry for that too, because radiated steel and precise medical equipment is no bueno.
What?
Yep.
Run that back.
So radiated steel,
mm-hmm.
even trace radiation in very precise equipment is a no-go.
Because it would affect
the output.
Yeah. Wow. So like for X-rays, CT, things like that, it's gonna give you a background.
Mm-hmm.
A background signal, like trying to take a picture with a light in your camera. Like,
oh wow.
Yep.
I remember that episode of The Simpsons where Homer had something going on, and they're like, all right, so we're gonna give you this thing, and he was like, oh, okay, you know, Homer works at a nuclear power plant. They're like, oh, you gave him the liquid already? Because it was the dye. And like, he was already lit up, and they were like,
no. That's a legit procedure. So I had my share of CT scans, but every so often, it's usually every 6 months during treatment or whatever, you get a PET scan where they inject you with radioactive isotopes, radioactive sugar isotopes, whatever it is, and basically they go to the cancer cells, which are metabolizing so much faster than your regular cells.
Lights it up like
and you literally have a light bulb inside of you on the CT. It's really a CT scan. The PET is just the radioactive isotope.
It's positron emission, and positrons are antimatter.
So we are closer to warp drive. Okay, great.
I keep telling you, like, listen, we got the antimatter thing down, as expensive as it may be to do. We're just a little short on the magnetic force field thing. You know, we need those containment units, because antimatter and matter don't play well with each other. At all. So, but yeah, so I just always, with the vaccine thing, I always thought that very interesting. People freak out over things, yet they go to the store and they buy a bag of chips and they just look at the really big words on them and go, nah, it's probably all right. Like, bro, some of the stuff that you're eating does more damage to you.
So much worse
than
mercury.
Right. Than the minute trace of mercury that a vaccine might have in it. And trust me, like, you know, I told you about the place that I worked at where we used all that Roundup. It was a packaging plant. The company's name I will not mention, but one of the products that we made there was an ingredient that went into fillings, like in a Twinkie. And we produced it in its pure form. Of course, it gets mixed, and what it's designed to do is make the filling stable where it doesn't run, it doesn't leak out. So if you slice the end of it off, the filling just stays there.
It sits right there, yeah,
and it never moves. You can shake it all around, doesn't matter. But this stuff, when it came out in its brick form,
I'm sorry, what?
Brick, like a brick of this stuff that goes into it, was literally like so solid.
Brick?
It's like a brick. Like, imagine a brick that you'd put in a wall of a building. Brick. It was literally so incredibly solid that in order for us to clean it out of the machine that formed it into said brick, because that's the way the client wanted it, we had to use water that was heated by a steam boiler beyond the boiling point. So steamed water. So like 285, 300 degrees.
Holy cow.
And it took hours to clean it off the machine, because as soon as it cooled down below that point, it would just harden up there too. And that stuff is going into almost every product that has any kind of cream filling. White cream filling, it's got that in it because it's a perfect stabilizer. But you could build houses out of this stuff.
It's an emulsifier?
Dude, no, emulsifiers make things creamy, like make things like
Gotcha.
No, this is, dude, this stuff, like you could build houses out of it. Like I
build houses that ants would then eat.
No.
Oh,
it has no taste.
So it's not sugar at all.
No, it has no taste. It's just
used to.
It's a binder. It has no taste at all. Like you can literally scrape it off and taste it, and it doesn't taste like anything. But it is a brick.
That is mortifying,
right? And seeing some of the processes going into like shortenings and other types of, it's not pretty. it's not. You wouldn't. You work at places like working at a restaurant and be like, oh, I'll never eat there again, you know, because you've pulled the fryer out and you've seen, you're like,
don't look at the man behind the curtain,
right, you know, like, or you see how they handle their food. And it wasn't like a food safety practice thing. It was just I've seen what goes into this, and I've seen the mixing process. I've seen the whole engineering process behind it. That's a hard pass for me. But then it's really difficult to say that when the company produces probably 90% of the oils that go into fryers in every popular restaurant across the United States. So you're like, well, crap. I don't really have a lot of choices here, you know, but again, I guess everything in moderation, unless it's cobra venom, right?
Cobra venom?
I mean, there's no moderation there.
There's no moderation.
Single drop of that and you're done. And the horse next to you.
Ricin.
Yeah, right.
Oh man. All right. So super quick, looking at some of the comments. Cookie Hubbard. Hey, Cookie. Matt Fleming. Hello. Rodri. Good to see you. Radimus. That's my homie from back home. He's now in Florida. He survived the hurricane. Like he FaceTimed us
during the hurricane.
And he was like, there's like, it's a lot of wind, but it ain't a whole lot happening. I do want to give a shout out to everybody who finished the New York City Marathon last night and yesterday. Like I've been there 9 years ago. I know the hard work that it took. I just got all the admiration for you guys. I was thinking of doing one on my birthday because every so often it'll land on my birthday. The next one that lands on my birthday is 2029. So that's 5 years from now.
I mean, you could prep within those 5 years.
I totally could. I'd be 185 pounds, just like, and I'm ready to run like a Kenyan.
And then something would come up and you wouldn't be able to go.
Well, the last time I was getting ready, I was like, I had just moved here and I just didn't have the time to make that happen.
No.
Yeah, that wasn't a thing. But yeah, it's all good. Let me see. What else do we have? I think that's pretty much it. Johnathan, thank you so much for coming out. This was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
This was so much fun.
Would you? I would like to invite you back. Would you say yes?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that.
Bill?
I feel like you just missed an opportunity. You should have been like,
absolutely not.
No.
Just shake your head. No, that's not a thing.
No,
that's gonna be a no for me, dog.
This was terrible. I'm never doing this again.
Let me see. Bill, it was great seeing you again. Actually, because we didn't talk about this, and I'll reference this. Friday was trivia. That was crazy. We had a lot of people out for trivia. And then Saturday we had our Dungeons and Dragons campaign that started,
which was also awesome.
And that was just fantastic because, oh my gosh. So yeah, so those were the things that
what's the next trivia?
The next yes, I have to announce this now. For all of you, I've never seen the show, but I have a month to get all of this together because I'm writing questions for this. I write the questions. I don't pull them off of anything else, but I write these questions. the next trivia is going to be December 6th, and we are doing The Office. I know there are a lot of you guys out there who are absolutely bonkers for it. I'm hoping to have so many people there that we have to like change the venue, because we were here at the Board Gamer and we had a lot of people. We had to go into an overflow room. We might have to go into the Garden Gate Tea Room, which is right over here. I would love for at some point it gets so big that we've got to go to like the diner.
Something
that would be
have to start setting up TVs with cameras of you in the other room.
Yeah. That would be crazy. But yeah, we're gonna do The Office. I've got a lot of studying on this topic to do, so I'll be writing questions for The Office. We're probably gonna do 4 or 5 rounds. Bring your A game, because darn it, I'm bringing my A game. The next Dungeons and Dragons, we had a great turnout for that as well. That will be the next night on December 7th. And I'll be talking more about that as well. I have no idea where we're going in this campaign. I know the darkness from the time rift, like,
I'm confused,
scooped us up and we woke up somewhere else and we were like, what has happened? And we're good. And I was like, what? It's 8 o'clock, man. We got to go. Oh, man.
Dang it.
And we just finished that boss fight, too. So it was really cool. I hope we got the experience points for that. So, yeah.
Also, everybody go out and vote tomorrow if you've not already early voted.
Tomorrow, if you haven't early voted already, like I did, go out and vote. Flex your...
Doesn't matter who you're voting for. Just cast
go
your
vote. This one's pretty big. I know in Missouri, we have the Senate and a bunch of judges and obviously the presidency. That's all up for grabs. So yeah, they're saying the race is close. Go vote. Let me see. Oh, I cannot forget to talk about this because I am really excited about it. I told you I was going to, oh my God, you guys. Legally Blonde this weekend at the Alfresco Theater.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Yes. It's at the Alfresco. I hope you have your tickets. I'm gonna be there. If I have to walk 4 hours to make it, I'm gonna bring my cologne and smell.
4 hours to walk here.
What?
It doesn't take 4 hours to walk.
From where I live, it takes about 3.5 to get here to this building.
No.
So maybe 3:30, 3:45.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I also will be traveling like that's what Google says, and Google goes based on how I walk, and I don't walk much. So
I definitely don't run. I follow the same kind of logic that he had earlier, the whole bear thing. That's the only time I'm running, period.
Did you see the video? I saw it. It popped up on my Facebook. The dude was like, they were reintroducing a bear to the wild, and this bear was like really pissed that it had been caged up. So it actually like went after the dude on the truck, and the guy's like,
it's like, that's some Jurassic Park stuff. Go faster, must go faster.
Drive.
Nope.
Anyway, you guys, it's been an absolute pleasure coming to you this week. This is like some of the best 75, 77 minutes of my day. And it's my birthday. So like the whole day is my day, and I love it. We are here in Studio B. I pointed to the right spot this time. Last time I was looking behind me. It's not behind me. It's right there.
They wouldn't know anyway.
In addition, yeah, I know you can't see it. In addition to that, we have Studio C. If you want to rent it out and do a movie night or something, it's a private location for you to do movies. We do have the Garden Gate Tea Room and the Board Gamery and the Downtown Diner. We are here in the middle of downtown Granite City, and the Speakeasy is like within walking distance of here. So, guys, thanks for tuning in with us tonight. Thanks for spending part of my birthday with me. You're awesome. You're amazing. You're fantastic. And don't let anybody make you feel different. Have a great week.
Peace.